There's a Tim Cook internal memo that he sent. There's a saying that if you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life. At Apple, I learned that is a total crock. You will work harder than you ever thought possible, but the tools will feel light in your hands.
So good.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss, Tim Cook.
I feel like you crushed that one.
I have a friend who worked for a very high-level recruitment company, C-suite execs for the biggest companies on the planet. I don't know whether it was some internal intranet thing or whether they actually saw these people or they maybe pool candidates with other companies, but he was able to see the breakdown interviews with some of the best CEOs in the world. So he was able to see the summary of Tim Cook and Susanna Wojcicki, the lady, and apparently the first line. So these guys are seeing everybody, right, the best on the planet, right? And I was like, okay, so just explain to me the interpretation difference between the guys that are already AAA and then Tim Cook. And he said the first line of Tim Cook's summary just said, rock star. That was the first thing. All it said was rock star. And he realized that in a pool of the best executives on the planet, people like Tim and people like Susanna still are heads and shoulders above the rest. I just thought that was so cool to like see these people in their nascent stage before they've got the thing that they're going to really magnify.
They had all the attributes. They didn't have the proof yet.
Yeah, they didn't have the playground. They didn't have the petri dish to be able to show just how much they could multiply it.
Yeah. Which I think about that a lot when it comes to kind of like potential energy versus reality for people on their way up. And so there's this huge time delay between when we start behaving in a way that a winner behaves and when we start winning. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the problem is that the bigger the mountain you're trying to climb, the bigger the W you're trying to get, typically the more delayed it is between
the lag.
Yeah, between when you start behaving like a winner and when you start being a winner. And most people don't get the fast enough feedback loop to know that they're on the right path when they are taking these first steps in the right direction, because they have this really big goal, but they forget that with that really big goal comes the even longer delay that it takes to get there, while still continuing to act with no feedback from society.
No positive reinforcement. No,
whatsoever. Nothing. And I think that's like, if I actually had to put a real, like what has worked so well for me and why the input over the output focus has been so powerful, is that I can extend the time horizon basically indefinitely, because the goal is me and then the external goals occur.
You don't need the positive reinforcement. I mean, everybody's seen it.
No, I need the positive reinforcement, but the positive reinforcement is coming from me.
Internally.
I'm just being like, just because I think it's important.
The positive external reinforcement that most people are looking for.
Right. But if you are the goal, then the actions you take every day are reinforcing who you believe yourself to be. That's where the confidence comes from.
As long as they're directionally correct.
And if you just want to be satisfied, then just work your ass off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everybody's seen one of those exponential graphs. And one of my good friends, George, bought me Ad Professor.
He's great.
He's fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
I found, I'll tell you once, fucking, he won't let me say it. But he's just got the most insane client. Like one of the coolest companies on the planet. He bought me for a gift last year. It's the 1 million subscriber announcement post that I did. It's the first ever test footage episode I did in 2017. And in the middle is the play graph that goes between the two. And you look, and it is up until a year, at the time, up until like a year before, it's flat. There's nothing. There was days, I remember looking back, there was days when we were doing this show in March, April, and May of 2018 where we did 0 plays. We'd already launched. I was releasing an episode a week, and there was days where we did no plays. And like, I released an episode and we did no plays. I went back through and looked. I don't think I even told you this. I messaged every single one of the 1,000 contacts in my phone that I'd accumulated from Nightlife promo on WhatsApp saying, "Hi, I've just launched a podcast. Would you mind subscribing to me?" 1,000 different people bunched into 50-person broadcast lists because that was the maximum broadcast list you used to be able to do. And I was the most ground floor, door-to-door sales to try and accumulate an audience. And it just keeps happening. There's no presuming that you keep on going exponentially. It makes every previous version paltry. And being able to continue doing something without seeing the results of your work is one of the best competitive advantages, because everybody else is feeling the same discomfort that you are. Everybody else is going, I don't know if this is going to work, and this is hard, and why is no one telling me that I'm doing a good job, and fuck, another day with no plays, that's stupid. And then you end up looking at the top 100 podcasts in the world, I think account for 80% of the global plays. 100 shows out of about 4 million account for 80% of the plays, which means there's 399,900 and fucking, that has got the entire rest of it. That's 20% for those. That's it.
The leading indicator of a successful person is the ability to act without anything happening. And when you continue down that path, it happens slower than you expect and then faster than you can imagine. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the part that everyone misses, is they expect the faster than they can imagine, and they imagine really big. And so then their expectations are really big, really fast, but they take the intensity and they don't apply it to a timeline that's appropriate. If you're a beginner, just learning, figuring out how to make your first dollar, I'm a co-owner of Skool.com, Skool.com. You can start for free. It's a cool setup that we have to help people do it. And right now, 54.1% of people who start a paid community on Skool make money. So we have put a tremendous amount of effort, Sam and I, into trying to remove all barriers and all friction for people who are getting started so that they have literally no excuses.
It's a way better strike rate than OnlyFans.
I don't know what their strike rate is, but we've worked really hard to. If you saw the amount of detail, I mean, maybe you heard some of this from the podcast, but the amount of detail that went into like where buttons go and what things we remove was actually a big one. Was how can we so pare this down so that people don't get overwhelmed? Because the number one reason people cancel or decide not to do something is overwhelm. And so we're like, okay, how can we funnel action into the clearest possible steps that people go step 1, step 2, step 3, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this actually worked. And so it's been really cool to see the thousands of people who have made their first dollar, which is what I make all my content about it to begin with. And so it's been the ride of my life. It's been awesome.
Okay, I appreciate you, man.